learning about chemical reactions by talking about the types of chemical reactions and being able to classify them. So make sure to have your chemistry notebook out, label today's date on your notebook, and then write types of chemical reactions. We're going to talk about the 5 basic types. The first one is synthesis. Synthesis is a chemical change in which 2 or more substances react to form a single new substance. So if you think of the word, if your English teacher asked you to synthesize something, they would ask you to bring information together, maybe include multiple sources and bring that into one concise paragraph, potentially. So synthesis reaction is 2 or more elements or compounds coming together to form a new compound. So here are some examples here. So we could have 2 elements, say like A plus B, and that yields AB. Or you could have 2 compounds that then create 1 compound when the chemical reaction occurs. A real world example is if you have magnesium and oxygen. So we saw this when we had that really bright light appear when I had a Bunsen burner, and then I had tongs with magnesium metal on it, and then I put the flame on it to add oxygen to it. It created magnesium oxide. So again, 2 elements combined together to create a compound. Our next example or type of reaction is decomposition. And this is a chemical change in which a single compound breaks down into 2 or more simpler substances. So you know what the word decompose probably means, and it's breaking something down like into the earth if something's decomposing. And so you would have 1 compound and it breaks down. So for example, AB yields A plus B. And an actual example of that would be sodium nitride. And this breaks down into sodium and sodium solid and nitrogen gas, 2 separate things. Make sure to pause the video, write down this definition, and write down these examples. And make sure the previous one you had in your notes too, you have synthesis. The next one we're looking at is single replacement, and this is a chemical change in which 1 element replaces a second element in a compound. So again, the name makes sense. So we have AB plus C yields AC plus B. So all that happened is C took A's spot here. So the lone element right here formed the new compound with A. So again, AB plus C yield AC plus B. And an actual example of that would be if you had potassium solid and added it to water, you would get an aqueous solution of potassium oxide, but then you would have hydrogen pop off because that was replaced in the original equation, or in the reactants. So again, 1 single element is being replaced. Next, we have double replacement, and this is a chemical change in which 2 positive ions, so those would be cations, between 2 ions and 2 ionic compounds. So for example, 2 things are switching spots you could think of. So AB plus CD yields, well now AD and CB. So the cations switch places, so I still have a plus and a negative ion, and then the other one would have a plus and a negative ion as well. And we'll look at plenty of examples in class of this. But right here, the example we have is sodium and sulfur reacts with candium and nitrate, and that candium then comes with the sulfur, and the sodium is with the nitrate. So again, 2 things were replaced there. Our next one is combustion. People typically like learning about this one the best. And again, before we go on, make sure that this one is in your notes and you have the examples down as well. Combustion is a chemical change in which an element or a compound reacts with oxygen often producing energy in the form of heat or light. So here we see some examples of combustion. We'll talk about more examples in class, but this usually results in a product with carbon dioxide and water. So we have a hydrocarbon and oxygen together, and it yields CO2 and H2O. So these are like a lot of fun explosions is there. Make sure this one is in your notes. Make sure that for those 5 examples, you have the 5 names, you have the definition, and you have examples for each of those. And then I would like you guys to practice. So for these, first write the equation in your notes, then label it either synthesis, decomposition, single replacement, double replacement, or combustion. Then balance the equation. Be sure to show your inventory, so show your work. How many carbons do you have on each side? For that first one, how many fluorines, how many bromines? And then take a legible picture and submit it to Google Classroom. We will do lots of practice of this next class.